The research ship Zenith Prime drifted silently through space, its silver hull gleaming under the light of distant stars. Inside the ship, Cathver adjusted his 4 arms as he studied the data flowing across his screen. The tall, blue-skinned alien had spent most of his life exploring new worlds for the Galactic Collective, but he had never seen readings like these. "Computer, verify planetary classification," Cathver said in his melodic voice. "Classification confirmed. Planet designation: Earth, Class 12 Death World." "Extreme danger rating," the computer replied. Cathver's large black eyes widened. In all his years of exploration, he had never encountered a Class 12 world. Most planets above Class 3 were considered completely uninhabitable. The computer listed Earth's dangers: violent weather systems, massive predators, poisonous plants, deadly bacteria, and temperature extremes that would kill most known life forms within minutes. "Impossible," he whispered. "No world this dangerous should support any life at all." But the sensors showed something even more shocking. The planet was not just alive. It was covered with cities, lights, and signs of advanced civilization. Billions of life forms moved across its surface, somehow thriving in conditions that would destroy any sensible species not far below on Earth. Commander Jake Morrison sat in the communications center of the North American Defense Command. The tall, brown-haired human was reviewing routine satellite data when his computer started beeping urgently. "Sir, we're picking up some kind of signal from outside the solar system," said the technician next to him. Jake leaned forward. "What kind of signal?" "It's structured, sir. Definitely artificial. Someone's trying to communicate with us." Jake felt his heart racing. After decades of searching for signs of alien life, first contact might actually be happening. "Can you decode it?" "Working on it now, sir." The signal is repeating the same pattern over and over. Within hours, the message became clear. It was a simple mathematical sequence, followed by what appeared to be a greeting in multiple languages that the aliens had somehow learned from Earth's radio broadcasts. "We are the Harmonious Collective," the translated message read. "We come. In peace, we wish to learn about your remarkable species." Jake immediately contacted Captain Lisa Bennett, Earth's top expert in linguistics and diplomacy. The short, red-haired woman had spent her career preparing for this exact moment, though she had always wondered if it would actually happen. "This is incredible, Jake," Lisa said as she reviewed the alien message. "They've been studying our communications for some time. Look at how well they've learned our languages." "What do you think? Are they friendly?" "The message seems peaceful, but we need to be careful. We know nothing about them except that they can travel between stars." Meanwhile, aboard the Zenith Prime, Cathvar was having trouble believing his own data. He called a meeting with his research team, a group of peaceful scientists from various collective worlds. "The inhabitants of this planet call themselves humans," Cathvar explained to his crew. "According to our analysis, they evolved on a world so dangerous that it should have killed them long before they developed intelligence." His assistant, a small green creature named Pixel, looked confused. "How is that possible?" "All collective. Species evolved on garden worlds with gentle climates and abundant food." "That's exactly what makes this so unusual," Cathvar replied. "These humans had to survive against giant predators, extreme weather, diseases, and natural disasters. Instead of dying out, they became stronger." The alien crew studied videos of Earth life that they had intercepted from human broadcasts. They watched in horror as they saw humans swimming in oceans filled with massive predators, climbing mountains in freezing temperatures, and living in deserts that would kill most aliens in minutes. "Look at this," Pixel said, pointing to footage of a human running. "Their planet has gravity 1.3 times stronger than standard. They're basically carrying extra weight every moment of their lives. And their atmosphere, added another crew member. 21% oxygen. That's almost poisonous. Most collective species need only 12%. Cathver was fascinated. They've adapted to conditions that would be torture for us. No wonder they seem so physically strong. Back on Earth, Lisa Bennett was preparing for humanity's first official contact with an alien species. The world's governments had agreed to let her lead the negotiations, hoping her diplomatic skills would help make a good first impression. The aliens had suggested a meeting in space, halfway between Earth and their ship. Jake Morrison would pilot the shuttle, while Lisa handled the actual contact. "Are you nervous?" Jake asked as they prepared for launch. "Terrified," Lisa admitted. "We're about to meet beings from another world. Everything we say or do could affect the future of humanity." The meeting took place in a specially designed chamber aboard a small neutral station that the aliens had quickly constructed. When Lisa first saw Cathver, she was struck by how graceful and peaceful he appeared. The tall alien moved slowly and spoke in gentle tones. "Welcome, human Lisa Bennett," Cathver said through a translation device. "I am Cathvar of the Valani people. We are honored to meet a species from a death world." "Death world?" Lisa asked. "That is what we call planets like yours. Worlds so dangerous that most species would consider them uninhabitable. In our records, no death world has ever produced intelligent life." Lisa realized that humans were unique in ways she had never imagined. "How many species are in your collective?" 847 peaceful species, Cathver replied proudly. "We have eliminated war, poverty, and conflict through technology and careful social development." "That's amazing," Lisa said. "How did you achieve such peace?" "Over many generations, we selected for cooperation and gentleness. We removed aggressive tendencies from our genetics and culture. Violence is almost unknown among collective species." Lisa felt a chill. If these aliens had bred out their ability to fight, what would happen if they ever faced a real threat? Cathvar continued the conversation, eager to learn about human society. "We are curious about your species. Our analysis shows that humans still engage in something called war. Why do you harm each other when you could choose peace?" Lisa chose her words carefully. "Humans have conflicts, yes, but we're working toward peace. Our harsh world taught us to be strong, but also to protect those we care about." "Fascinating," Cathver said. "Perhaps your strength comes from your dangerous evolution. Most collective species would find your world terrifying." As the meeting continued, Lisa began to understand that humanity was surrounded by a galaxy full of peaceful but defenseless civilizations. The aliens were advanced and kind, but they had no concept of real danger or conflict. "What happens if your collective faces an aggressive species?" Lisa asked. Cathver's expression darkened slightly. "There are some species that have chosen a different path. The Korthik Empire expands through conquest, but they rarely bother with collective space. We simply avoid them. And if you can't avoid them, we hope that never happens," Cathver said quietly. Lisa and Jake returned to Earth with mixed feelings. They had made contact with a vast galactic civilization, but they had also learned that humanity might be the only species in the galaxy that truly understood the need for strength in the face of danger. As news of first contact spread across Earth, humans celebrated the dawn of a new age. But some, like Jake Morrison, wondered if their new alien friends might someday need the very qualities that made humans different: the strength, determination, and fighting spirit that came from being born on a death world. The universe was about to become a much more interesting place. 6 months had passed since first contact with the Galactic Collective. Earth's governments were busy setting up trade agreements and learning about alien technology. Scientists worked day and night studying new discoveries, while diplomats prepared for humanity's entry into galactic society. Jake Morrison stood in his new office at the International Space Command headquarters. Through his window, he could see construction crews building the first human starship using a mix of Earth and alien technology. Everything seemed peaceful and promising. That changed when his communication system started screaming urgent alerts. "Commander Morrison, we have an emergency transmission from the collective ship," his aide called out. Jake rushed to the main communication center, where Captain Lisa Bennett was already receiving the message. On the screen, Cathfor appeared, but the calm alien looked terrified. His blue skin had turned pale, and his forearms were shaking. "Humans, you must evacuate your planet immediately," Cathfor said without any greeting. "Long-range sensors have detected a massive fleet approaching your solar system. The Korthic Empire has found you." Lisa felt her blood turn cold. "The Korthic? You mentioned them before. Who are they exactly?" "They are everything the collective." "Fierce," Cathfor replied. "The Korthic are a warrior species that conquers every planet they find. They enslave or kill any race that resists them. They have been expanding their empire for over 300 years. Jake leaned toward the screen. "How many ships are we talking about?" "Our sensors show more than 2,000 warships. This is the largest Korthic fleet ever assembled. They want to make sure humans cannot resist." In another part of the galaxy, War Master Thokron stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Bloodfang. The massive alien was nearly 8 feet tall, covered in thick gray scales and natural armor. His red eyes studied the tactical display showing Earth's solar system. "War Master, why are we bringing such a large force for one small planet?" asked his second-in-command. Thokron's voice was like grinding stone. "The collective species have been talking about these humans for months. They say the humans come from a death world and possess unusual strength. I want to crush any hope of resistance before it begins." The Korthic had built their empire through overwhelming force and brutal efficiency. They had conquered 47 different species, turning their worlds into military bases and slave colonies. No species had ever successfully fought back. "Besides," Thokron continued, "if these humans are as strong as the collective claims, we could use them as shock troops for future conquests." Back on Earth, Colonel Pete Jackson was calling emergency meetings with military leaders from every nation. The gray-haired veteran had spent his life preparing for conflicts, but never one like this. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're facing an invasion force that outnumbers our entire space fleet by 1,000 to 1, Pete announced to the gathered officers. "The aliens are giving us 1 week to evacuate before the Korthic arrive." Admiral Susan Clark raised her hand. "Where exactly are we supposed to evacuate to? Earth is our home. The collective has offered to relocate human survivors to peaceful worlds within their territory," Pete replied. "But they estimate we can only save about 10 million people before the Korthic arrive." The room fell silent. Earth's population was over 8 billion. Dr. Amy Rodriguez had been working with Vellani scientists to understand Korthic technology. The young physicist looked exhausted as she delivered her report to the military leadership. "The Korthic ships are more advanced than anything we have," Amy explained. "Their plasma cannons can destroy our largest warships with single shots. Their armor can withstand our nuclear weapons, and their shields can deflect most of our energy weapons." "What about their weaknesses?" asked General Rick Hayes. "According to collective records, the Korthic have no significant weaknesses. Every species that has fought them has been defeated within days." Rick Hayes was a tough man who had never backed down from a fight. He stood up slowly and looked around the room. "Then I guess we'll be the first to change that record." "General, with respect, the odds are impossible," Pete Jackson said. "The odds were impossible when my grandfather fought in World War II," Rick replied. The odds were impossible when humans first climbed mountains, crossed oceans, and went to space. We're a death world species, remember? Impossible is what we do. The news of the coming invasion spread across Earth within hours. Some people panicked and tried to find ways off the planet. Others prepared to fight. Many simply went about their daily lives, refusing to believe that their world could be destroyed. Kethver contacted Earth again as the Korthic fleet drew closer. Please, humans, you must understand. No species has ever survived a Korthic invasion. Your courage is admirable, but this is not a battle you can win. Lisa Bennett was now serving as Earth's primary liaison with the collective. Kethver, we appreciate your concern, but humans don't abandon their home. But the Korthic will destroy everything. They will kill billions of your people. Then we'll make them pay for every life they take, Lisa said quietly. The alien seemed confused by this response. In collective culture, survival was always more important than pride or territory. The idea of fighting a hopeless battle made no sense to him. 3 days before the Korthic arrival, the enemy fleet's communication array sent a message to Earth. War Master Thokran's scarred face appeared on screens around the world. Humans of Earth, the alien warlord announced, I am War Master Thokran of the Korthic Empire. Your planet is now claimed as Imperial territory. You have 24 hours to surrender unconditionally. Submit, and some of you will be allowed to live as slaves. Resist, and all will die. The message ended with images of previous Korthic conquests. Burning cities, destroyed fleets, and conquered populations working in slave camps. World leaders held an emergency meeting to discuss Thokria's ultimatum. The debate was short. General Rick Hayes was chosen to deliver humanity's official response. The old soldier looked directly into the camera, knowing that his words would be heard across the galaxy. War Master Thokran, Rick said in a calm, steady voice. Humanity has received your ultimatum. Here is our response. Rick paused for a moment, then spoke 2 words that would become legendary among every species in the galaxy. Come on. The transmission ended. Across the collective, peaceful aliens watched in amazement as the humans of Earth chose to fight rather than flee. Most thought the humans were insane. A few wondered if courage like that might be exactly what the galaxy needed. Thokran stared at his communication screen in disbelief. In 3 centuries of conquest, no species had ever responded to his ultimatum with a challenge. War Master, should we begin the attack early? His lieutenant asked. Thokran's red eyes glowed with anticipation. No, let them prepare. I want to see what a Deathworld species can do when cornered. The countdown to humanity's first interstellar war had begun. The Korthic fleet arrived exactly on schedule, filling the space around Earth with massive warships. Each vessel was 3 times larger than humanity's biggest spacecraft, armed with weapons that could destroy cities with single shots. War Master Thokran stood on his bridge, watching the tactical display. Earth's defense force looked pathetic compared to his armada. A few hundred small ships against his 2,000 battlecruisers. Begin the attack, Thokran ordered. Destroy their orbital stations first. Lieutenant Commander Chris Parker was aboard the space station Armstrong 7 when the first Korthic plasma beams lit up the darkness. The young officer watched in horror as 3 nearby stations exploded in brilliant flashes. All ships, this is Commander Parker, Chris called into his radio. Begin evasive maneuvers. Don't try to match their firepower. Hit and run only. The human ships were smaller and faster than the Korthic vessels. They darted between the massive alien warships like angry wasps, firing missiles and laser beams. Before disappearing into the asteroid field, Thokran frowned as he watched the battle. His ships were destroying human vessels, but not as quickly as expected. The humans were using tactics he had never seen before. "Why don't they form battle lines?" asked his lieutenant. "Every civilized species fights in organized formations. These humans are not civilized," Thokren replied. "They fight like wild animals." Chris Parker's ship had lost half its crew, but he kept fighting. When his weapons ran out, he did something that shocked every alien watching the battle. He aimed his damaged ship directly at a Korthik cruiser. "This is for Earth," Chris said, into his radio, then crashed his vessel into the enemy ship at full speed. The collision destroyed both ships in a massive explosion. Aboard the collective observation vessel, Kethfer watched in disbelief. "He killed himself to destroy one enemy." "Ship," Kethfer whispered. "No rational being would do such a thing." "Humans are not rational," replied Pixel. "They are something else entirely." The space battle raged for 6 hours. The humans lost 2/3 of their fleet, but they had also destroyed over 100. Korthik vessels using suicide attacks, ramming maneuvers, and tactics that violated every rule of civilized warfare. Thokran was furious. "These humans fight like demons. No species has ever caused us such losses in a single battle." "War Master, should we retreat and call for reinforcements?" asked his second-in-command. "Never. We will break them completely. Begin landing operations on their colonies." The Korthik sent invasion forces to Mars, where human miners had built several settlements. The alien warriors were confident as they landed on the red planet's surface. They had conquered dozens of worlds using the same tactics. Captain Maria Santos commanded the Mars Defense Force. She was a tough woman who had grown up in the harsh mining colonies. When the Korthik dropships landed, she was ready for them. "Remember, these aliens evolved on easy worlds," Maria told her troops. "They don't know how to fight in difficult conditions. We do." The Korthik warriors were impressive fighters in normal conditions. They were stronger and better armed than humans. But Mars was not normal conditions. The first group of Korthik soldiers landed near the Olympus mining station. They expected to find frightened civilians begging for mercy. Instead, they found empty buildings and silence. "Where are the humans?" asked the Korthik squad leader. His answer came from underground. The miners had dug tunnels throughout the area, turning the entire region into a maze of hidden passages. Human soldiers appeared from nowhere, attacked with explosives and laser. Weapons then disappeared back into the tunnels. Sergeant Danny Brooks had spent his whole life in the Mars caves. He knew every tunnel, every hidden passage, every dangerous area where the ceiling might collapse. "The aliens are too big for the small tunnels," Danny explained to his squad. "They get confused in tight spaces. We can move around them easily." The Korthik found themselves fighting an enemy they could not see or predict. Every time they entered a building, explosions went off. Every time they walked down a street, snipers shot at them from hidden positions. Worse, the environmental conditions were harder than the Korthik expected. Mars had lower gravity than their home world, which made their movements clumsy. The thin atmosphere made breathing difficult. The cold temperatures slowed their reflexes. "This is impossible," one Korthik officer reported to his ship. "The humans are fighting from inside the planet itself." Captain Jenny Miller led orbital defense operations from the space station Victoria. When her weapons were destroyed, she used the station's engines to ram a Korthik supply ship. When her engines failed, she used the station's atmosphere to create a massive explosion that took out 3 more enemy vessels. Dr. Kevin Walsh was studying the battle from Earth's military command center. The scientist had discovered something important about human biology. "Look at these medical readings," Kevin explained to General Rick Hayes. "Our soldiers are fighting effectively, even when wounded. The Korthik seem to shut down when they take damage." What does that mean? Rick asked. It means evolution made us different. We developed pain tolerance, backup systems, and the ability to keep fighting even when hurt. The Korthik never needed those abilities. Rick nodded. So we're literally built for war. Not war, Kevin corrected. Survival. We're built to survive anything. The ground fighting on Mars continued for 3 days. The Korthik had superior numbers and weapons, but they could not defeat an enemy that used the environment as a weapon. Every cave system became a fortress. Every mining tunnel became a trap. The Korthik warriors began to fear the dark spaces, where humans hid. They started refusing orders to enter buildings or underground areas. The humans are ghosts, one soldier reported. They appear from nowhere and disappear like smoke. Thokron was receiving similar reports from all the invasion sites. Human resistance was unlike anything the Korthik had encountered. The humans did not fight fair. They used dirty tricks, surprise attacks, and psychological warfare. They are making our warriors afraid, Thokrin's lieutenant reported. Some are refusing to fight. Impossible. Korthik warriors fear nothing. They fear these humans, War Master. The humans do not fight like any species we have conquered. As the battle continued, other alien species throughout the galaxy watched. In amazement, the collective had never seen anything like human warfare. The peaceful aliens were horrified by the violence, but also fascinated by human determination. They refused to surrender, Kethfer observed. Even when facing certain death, they keep fighting. It is illogical, replied another Velani scientist. Survival should be their priority. Perhaps, Kethver said thoughtfully, their definition of survival is different from ours. The war was far from over, but something had changed in the galaxy. For the first time in centuries, the Korthik Empire was not winning easily. The humans had proven that Deathworld species fought by different rules, and those rules were about to change everything. News of human resistance spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. On the peaceful collective worlds, aliens gathered around communication screens to watch the impossible battle. For the first time in their history, someone was fighting back against the Korthik Empire. But the most important watchers were not the peaceful species. Deep in Korthik territory, on worlds that had been conquered decades ago, enslaved aliens began to hear whispers of hope. On the planet Zephyr Prime, former warriors of the proud Zephyrian race worked in the mines that fed the Korthik war machine. The tall, bird-like aliens had once been fierce fighters, but 50 years of slavery had broken their spirit. Commander Tony Reed's message reached them through hidden communication channels that human resistance fighters had established throughout enemy territory. People of Zephyr Prime. Tony's voice crackled through their secret receivers. This is Commander Tony Reed of Earth Defense Force. We know you can hear us. We know you remember what freedom means. In the deepest mine shaft, an old Zephyrian, named Skektar, listened with tears in his large golden eyes. He had been a war chief before the conquest, but had not held a weapon in decades. The humans fight because they choose to fight, Tony continued. You can choose too. Today, we share our battle plans with all enslaved worlds. Today, you can remember who you were. Similar messages reached dozens of conquered worlds. The mechanical synth collective, whose logical minds had been forced to serve Korthik computers, began to remember their independence. The aquatic dolphins, whose ocean worlds had become Korthik naval bases, started to dream of rebellion. On Earth, Ambassador Kate Phillips was coordinating with these resistance movements. The diplomatic woman had become a war leader, something she never expected. We need to adapt our tactics for different species, Kate explained to her team. What works for humans might not work for aliens with different bodies and abilities. She was right. Zephyrian rebels could fly, which made them perfect for aerial attacks. Synth units could hack into Korthik computer systems. Delphin fighters could sabotage underwater facilities. Commander Tony Reed became the link between Earth and the growing rebellion. His modified communication systems could reach across the galaxy, spreading human fighting techniques to species that had forgotten how to resist. "Remember," Tony told, "the Zephyrian rebels, you don't need to win every battle. You just need to make the Korthik afraid. Fear is a weapon too." The first coordinated rebellion began on Zephyr Prime. Skektar led his fellow miners in an attack on their guard station. The old warrior felt strength returning to his tired wings as he fought for the first time in 50 years. "For Zephyr," he cried, using battle words that had been forbidden for decades. The Korthik guards were completely surprised. They had ruled these aliens for so long that they never expected resistance. The rebellion spread from mine to mine, then from city to city. On the water world of Delpha 7, the aquatic rebels used human submarine tactics to attack Korthik naval bases. They moved through underwater canyons like human soldiers moved through Earth's mountains, striking without warning and disappearing into the depths. The Synth Collective began the most dangerous rebellion of all. Their mechanical bodies let them survive in space without protection. They sabotaged Korthik's supply ships by attaching themselves to the hulls and cutting through armor with their built-in tools. War Master Thokrin received reports of rebellions on 12 different worlds within the same week. His red eyes burned with rage as he studied the tactical displays. How is this possible? He demanded. These species were completely broken. They had no fight left in them. The humans are teaching them, his lieutenant replied nervously. They are sharing their fighting methods with our slaves. Impossible. No species helps others without gaining something in return. But the evidence was clear. Human communication signals were reaching every corner of Korthik space, carrying messages of hope and detailed battle plans. The humans were not just fighting for themselves. They were fighting for every enslaved species in the galaxy. Thokran made a crucial mistake. Instead of concentrating his forces to crush Earth quickly, he divided his fleet to put down the rebellions. He sent ships to Zephyr Prime, Delpha 7, and 8 other worlds. This gave Earth's defenders the breathing room they desperately needed. With fewer enemy ships in their solar system, human forces could fight more effectively. Meanwhile, something unexpected was happening among the peaceful collective species. Young aliens who had never seen violence were volunteering to help the resistance. On the Velani homeworld, Kethver found himself arguing with the Planetary Council. "We cannot remain neutral," Kethver insisted. "The humans are fighting for all of us, whether we admit it or not. Violence is against our fundamental nature," replied the council leader. "We cannot participate in war. Then the Korthik will eventually conquer us too," Kethve said. "The humans understand something we forgot. Sometimes peace requires the strength to defend it." A group of young Velani began secretly training with human instructors. Their gentle nature made them unsuited for direct combat, but they could serve as medics, engineers, and communication specialists. Other collective species began to question their pacifist philosophy. The peaceful Altarians started producing medical supplies for the rebels. The scholarly Centaurians shared intelligence about Korthik technology. Ambassador Kate Phillips worked to coordinate this growing alliance. "We're not asking you to become warriors," she told collective leaders. "We're asking you to support those who fight for your freedom." The galaxy was changing in ways no one had expected. The rigid division between conqueror and conquered was breaking down. Species that had never worked together were united by a common enemy and inspired by human determination. On Zephyr Prime, Skektar received a message from Commander Tony Reed. "How are your people holding up?" Tony asked. "We remember who we are," Skektar replied. "The young ones who never knew freedom are fighting harder than the old warriors. The humans have given us more than battle tactics. You have given us hope." War Master Thokran was beginning to understand that he faced something unprecedented. This was not just a war against one stubborn species. The humans had somehow weaponized the very concept of freedom, spreading it across the galaxy like a virus. "War Master," his lieutenant reported, "we have rebellions on 17 worlds now. Our forces are stretched too thin to maintain control." Thokran's scaled fists clenched in fury. "The humans will pay for this. Recall all ships to Earth. We end this now." But as his scattered fleets began to regroup, Thokran realized that the humans had already won something more valuable than any battle. They had awakened the galaxy's fighting spirit. The final confrontation was coming, and for the first time. In centuries, the Korthic Empire would face united resistance from dozens of species, fighting as one. War Master Thokran brought his entire remaining fleet back to Earth's solar system. Nearly 1,500 ships surrounded the human homeworld, ready for the final battle. The Korthic leader was determined to end the rebellion by destroying its source. "Today, we crush the humans completely," Thokran announced to his fleet. "No survivors, no prisoners. We will make an example that the entire galaxy will remember." But as the Korthic ships moved into attack formation, something unexpected happened. Ships began appearing from hyperspace chunks all around the solar system. Not just human ships, but vessels from dozens of different species. Admiral Roy Parker stood on the bridge of Earth's flagship, watching the Allied fleet assemble. The grizzled officer had never imagined he would command ships from across the galaxy. "Admiral, we have Zephyrian fighters taking position on our left flank," reported his communications officer. "Synth interceptors are moving to support our right wing. The Delphin submarines are ready to attack from the asteroid belt." Roy smiled grimly. "And our collective allies? The Valani medical ships are standing by to rescue survivors. The Centaurians have provided us with detailed intelligence on Korthic weak points." Even more surprising, some Korthic ships were joining the Allied fleet. These were vessels from recently conquered worlds, whose crews had heard the message of rebellion and turned against their masters. Thokran stared at his tactical display in disbelief. "How many ships do they have?" "Nearly 800 allied vessels, War Master. This is the largest rebel fleet in galactic history." "It doesn't matter," Thokran snarled. "We still outnumber them. Begin the attack." The final battle of the war began with the largest space engagement the galaxy had ever seen. Thousands of ships from dozens of species fought in the darkness between planets. The Zephyrian pilots used their natural flying abilities to perform maneuvers that amazed even human pilots. Their ships danced through enemy fire like birds in a storm. The synth vessels fought with mechanical precision, calculating the perfect moment to strike enemy weak points. Their lack of organic crews meant they could survive undamaged. Ships that would kill other species. The Delphin fighters moved in flowing formations, like schools of fish, confusing Korthic targeting systems with their coordinated movements. But it was the human ships that led the most dangerous attacks. Captain Ben Foster commanded a squadron of heavy cruisers that had been badly damaged in earlier battles. "All ships, this is Captain Foster," Ben called over the radio. "Our engines are failing, and our weapons are nearly gone." "You know what that means?" His squadron understood. When human ships could no longer fight effectively, they became weapons themselves. Ben aimed his damaged cruiser directly at Thokran's massive flagship. "For Earth and freedom," he said calmly, then accelerated toward the enemy ship. Thokran watched in horror as the human vessel approached his bridge. "Evasive maneuvers! Stop that ship!" But Ben's cruiser was not alone. 5 other human ships joined him, all flying straight at the Korthic flagship. The alien gunners could not stop them all. The collision was spectacular. 6 human ships crashed into the Bloodfang at full speed, their explosions tearing through the massive vessel's armor. Thokran's flagship began to break apart across the battlefield. The sight of the human sacrifice inspired every allied fighter. Zephyrian pilots screamed ancient war cries. Synth units calculated new attack patterns. Even peaceful Vellani crew members cheered from their medical vessels. "The humans have shown us the way," Skektar announced from his Zephyrian command ship. "We fight not just for victory, but for the right to be free." Thokran survived the destruction of his flagship, but barely. As emergency systems pulled him to an escape pod, he realized that his empire was crumbling around him. The Korthik had always won through fear and overwhelming force. But fear worked both ways. Now his own warriors were afraid of the allies who fought like demons and refused to surrender. "War Master, we are receiving surrender requests from 12 of our ships," his lieutenant reported from a backup vessel. Surrender? Thokran could not believe what he was hearing. "Korthik do not surrender. They do now, War Master. The crews are saying they cannot fight enemies who welcome death." The battle continued for 8 hours, but the outcome was no longer. In doubt, the Allied fleet, inspired by human courage and united by a common cause, systematically destroyed or captured the Korthik vessels. Thokran himself was captured when his escape pod was picked up by a Zephyrian rescue ship. The once mighty War Master found himself imprisoned by the same species he had enslaved decades earlier. The war was over, but the real change was just beginning. In the months that followed, the Korthak Empire completely collapsed. Without their central leadership and military force, the conquered worlds declared independence. The galaxy's map was redrawn as dozens of species reclaimed their freedom. Earth became the unofficial military headquarters of a new galactic alliance. Human officers worked with alien commanders to establish defense forces that could prevent future conquests. The galactic collective, changed by the war, evolved into something new. The peaceful species kept their harmonious ways, but they now understood that peace required strength to defend it. Admiral Roy Parker was appointed as the first Supreme Allied Commander. His job was to coordinate the defense of free worlds while respecting each species' unique culture and abilities. "We are not conquerors," Roy explained to the new Galactic Council. "We are protectors. Our job is to make sure that peaceful species can remain peaceful." The solution was elegant. Species like the Vallani, Centaurians, and Altarians continued their scientific and cultural pursuits. But they were now protected by an alliance of warrior species led by humans, and including the awakened Zephyrians, Delphons, and others. The former Korthak worlds were helped to establish democratic governments. Many chose to join the alliance, bringing their own military knowledge to the common defense. VAR, now serving as a liaison between the collective and the alliance, often reflected on how much had changed. "The humans taught us something important," he told his fellow Vellani. "True peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the presence of justice, defended by those strong enough to preserve it." The galaxy established a new law, written into the constitution of every member world. It became known as the Deathworld Code, and it was simple: never provoke Deathworlders. They do not fight to win battles. They fight to win wars. They do not fight for conquest. They fight for freedom. And they never, ever surrender. Children across the galaxy learned this rule in school. It was taught not as a threat, but as a promise. A promise that somewhere in the darkness of space, there were beings who would fight for those who could not fight for themselves. The humans had not just saved Earth. They had saved the idea that freedom was worth fighting for. And that lesson would echo through the stars for generations to come.